Greetings and welcome to today, the first of set of lessons on finding the surface area of prisms and cylinders. Probably just going to talk about prisms in this video, but wanted you to have a good idea. They're very close, they're very connected. So what is a prism, what is a cylinder? So a prism, we need a textbook definition, and then I thought I'd use this for simple visualization. So a prism, okay, is a three-dimensional, 3D object that has two parallel bases. I'm going to switch pens on you here. And we're going to use that term. And you'll notice I capitalized the word bases here. It's not by accident. I didn't just get lazy and decide, hey, I want to use the word, I want to use a capital B. It actually is going to make a big difference. There's between a little b and a capital B. We'll talk about that when we actually get to the bases themselves. It has two parallel bases, and the rest of the sides are rectangles. Now, and I meant to bring a triangular prism, but I just dropped this would be called a square prism because the base is a square. We name the prisms by the shape of their base. So you can have any kind of base you want, and then as long as all the other sides are rectangles, and the two sides are parallel, then you have a prism. So you could have, a rectangular prism, which is probably the one we're going to see the most. And if you look around your house, you probably see them all over the place. A die, for example, from a board game, or a box of tissue, typically those are rectangular prisms. This one's actually, also you think of it as a cube, but a cube is nothing but a square prism. It's a very specific description of a type of prism. Triangular prism. Okay, and I can kind of draw these. So a rectangular prism looks something like that, and a triangular prism terrible drawing. Try that one more time. I've done this before. Looks sort of like this. Honestly, if you get a 3-ring binder, that's a triangular prism. I'll probably have one for the next video I make because I meant to have one for this one. Very much bringing a triangle together in the front and the back. Now, one of the key components to the word base in this situation is the base does not mean the bottom. Please don't make the assumption that because we say base, it has to be on the bottom of the object. If the base is what we use to name the object, then it is what we use to name the object. So if I go back to my square prism here, if I told you the base was this number 1, you can kind of see it's faded. Let's go to the 6. You can see the number 6. If this is the base, it doesn't matter if I'm sitting on the base, it's facing you, it's up on the top, it's on the side. It makes no difference where the base is for it to be the base. What matters is there another one parallel to it? Direct, meaning you can draw a straight line, even if it's over there. I can draw a straight line this way and they'd be parallel. That's called an oblique prism. Probably go into a little more detail in the next video on that. Because we really just want to talk about what is a prism. And then we want to talk about how to find the surface area of that prism. So it's a 3D object, again, with two parallel bases, capital B, and the rest of the sides are all rectangles. It doesn't matter if it's a triangular prism, the sides are all rectangles. It doesn't matter if it's a square prism. Even though they're squares, squares are rectangles. They're just more specific rectangles. But all of the other sides in the prism have to be rectangles. So what do we need to find the surface area? Well, let's look at one particular rectangular prism and find its surface area. Okay, so I'm going to drop that for a second and draw rectangular prism. So we have that this is 8 inches, 6 inches, and 4 inches. Now, if I were labeling these, I might call this the length, the width, and the height of the prism, okay? But for purposes of this, we're not going to make that distinction just yet. What we're going to decide is, what's the base? Now, the fun thing about this one, this is a rectangular prism. Since the bases are rectangles, and by definition of prism, all the sides are rectangles, everything's a rectangle. So here's the beauty of it. It doesn't matter what you call the base. Pick whatever you want. Me, I'm going to pick the bottom. I know I just told you it doesn't have to be the bottom, but I'm going to anyway. So we're looking at something like that. So the bottom here would be a rectangle that is 8 inches in length and 6 inches in height, or width, excuse me, I should say. The height of the whole prism is this right here, 4 inches. And we're going to need that. So I'm going to just set that aside for a moment. Height is 4 inches. And that H stands for the height of the prism. Okay? So just that H means height of the prism. You're going to see things where there's going to be multiple H's in the formula, and I know that's very confusing at times, which is one of the reasons why we go from lowercase b to capital B. But for purposes of this, H in this case is height of the prism. Well, the area of the base, and that's where we're using that capital B. So B, capital B, is the base area. So whatever you've determined the base to be, because you know what its name is, you know it's a rectangle, a triangle, a square. When we get into cylinders, we'll even see circles. Okay? And it can be anything. It could be a pentagon, an octagon, it could be a nothing shape. As long as they're exactly the same, you could have any four-sided figure you want, a rhombus, a trapezoid, I don't know what. Okay? Well, I know how to find the area of a rectangle. The area of a rectangle is simply length times width. So the base's area, in this case, would be 48 inches squared. 8 times 6. Okay? That's the area of my base. Okay? And if you look, here's my base. Okay, shade that in for just a second. It's all the bottom there. I have another one just like it on the top. Okay, so if I'm finding the surface area, the area of the surface, I need 2 of these. Because I've got one, that's by definition, right? They're both, the base is the thing that I'm naming it. So if I'm finding the area of that rectangle, I need the top and the bottom in this case. Well, there are still, and I'm going to reach down and grab my die really quick. So my 6 and my 1 are taken care of. Those are my 2 bases. So, but what about the other sides? Okay, I got my 2, I got my 3, I got my 4, and I got my 5. Well, if we start with the 2 side, we can see that that's part of the top. Okay, that's the, let's call that the length. We're dealing with this piece right here. Right? That piece right there, there's a 4 times a 6. So that would actually be 4 inches times 6 inches. Right? And there's another one just like it over here. So there's 2 of those. Then there's the front and the back. So there's a 8 by 4. And there's one of those in the front, and there's one of those in the back. So again, there's 2 of those. Well, if we just use length and width, we go back to the base being length times width, and this time the H being the height of, and remember height is the prism, what do we have? We have 2 of, this would be the, we've got 2 of the length times the heights, and then we have 2 of the, sorry, it's not the length, that's the width, my bad. width of the height, and this would be the length times the height. So we have 2 times the length, width times the height, and 2 times the length times the height. Okay, well, what does that mean to us? Well, 2 widths times height plus 2 lengths times height. Well, 2 widths plus 2 lengths, a length plus a width plus a length plus a width, that was the whole outside. That was the perimeter. And the perimeter of what? The perimeter of our base. So this all becomes perimeter of the base. I'm not sure you can see that, so let me write it over here. The perimeter of the base times the height of the prism. That gives us the other 4 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4. So left, right, front, back. 2, 3, 4, 5. We already had 1 and 6 was the 2B. Okay? So now we can put this all together in one gigantic formula. So here we go. I'm going to erase some of this. I'll write it right here at the top. So surface area. So this is the formula for finding the surface area. Is 2 times the area of the base. Remember, capital B. Okay, so this is surface area equals 2 times the base area plus, we just found it was perimeter times the height of the prism. So plus the perimeter, and when I say perimeter, in this case, it's the perimeter of the base, all of that, times, kind of running out of room here, times the height of the prism. So surface area equals 2B plus pH. Okay, that is a crazy formula, but let's put it to a little bit of a test. Let's go back to our so I'm going to erase all of this. Okay, let's bring back our rectangle, our rectangular prism, I should say. So again, 8 inches, 6 inches, 4 inches. So if we call the bottom 1 and 6, that would be, so I have, what I have is I have 2 rectangles. I have this one on the bottom, and I have 2 of these. I have this side, and that would be 6 by 4. And I have 2 of those. And then I have the front, so that would be 8 inches by 4 inches, and then I have another one just like it in the back, so I have 2 of those as well. Well, 8 times 6 is 48. 2 of those would be 96 inches squared. 6 times 4 is 24. 2 of those would be 48 inches squared. 4 times 8 is 32. Times 2 is 64 inches squared. And if we add that all up, because we're just, that's all it is. When you find the surface area, you're finding the area of all the sides. So there are 6 of them. I'm finding 6 sides, 2 of each, 2 of these, 2 of these. So it would be 96 inches squared plus 8 inches squared plus 64 inches squared. 96 plus 64 is 160, so 208 inches squared. Like if I needed to know how much to paint to buy, because I'm going to paint this building, I'm going to paint this room, could be painting the inside, could be painting the outside, I need to know those measurements. Now, Usually you're probably not painting the roof or you're not painting the ceiling or the floor, but you could then subtract that out later if that were something you needed to do. So you might find the whole thing and then go, well, I'm not painting the floor, but I am going to paint the ceiling. So just subtract out one of whatever the floor is, one of these, 8x6s. Okay, that's finding each one individually. What if we just plugged it into the formula here for a second? So 2 times b, well, b we determined was this, so that's 96 inches squared, plus 8 plus 4 plus 8 plus 4, that's the perimeter of this. All right, this is my base. So 8 plus 6 plus 8 plus 6. 8 plus 8 plus 6 plus 6 is 28 inches. That's the perimeter. Times the height, which is 4 inches. Well, 2 times, sorry, this is 48, not 96. I'm getting ahead of myself here. I knew it didn't look right. It's 48 because I already doubled it here, so I shouldn't have done that. So now I can double it, 96 inches squared. And 28 times 4, 20 times 4 is 80, 8 times 4 is 32, 80 plus 32 is, 80 plus 32 is 112 inches squared. So you got inches times inches. And we add them up, 208. Now, don't think this is going to be something you're going to do super fast. You're not like, hey, it'll take me no time at all. Just be boom, boom, and I'm done. It's like you're finding the area of 6 sides of an object, or 5 sides. This is the smallest you're going to deal with. If you had a triangular prism, for example, you find the area of the 2 triangles, then you find the perimeter of the triangle, and then you multiply that times the height of the prism. Okay? And we will talk about that, I think, in probably the next video. Probably going to take 3 to get through this all the way. But everything's going to come back to this formula right here, that the surface area is equal to the base's area. Whatever is the name of the shape is the base. So when you look at it and they say, well, what do you call it? You say, well, I call it a rectangular prism. Great, you've already told me the base is a rectangle. If you look at it and tell me it's a triangular prism, you're telling me the triangle is a base. If you tell me it's a square prism, you're telling me the base is a square. If you tell me it's a trapezoidal prism, you're telling me the base is a trapezoid. Whatever you name the base is going to be the base that I'm going to have to find the area of. It's also the base I'm going to have to find the perimeter of, because we need both of those things to find the surface area of the whole object. And we're really going to kind of need that again when we get into volume, but we're not there yet. Right now we're focusing on the surface area. Okay, so we need to name it. Okay, so all right, I think I'm going to break this into 3. So we're going to talk about prisms again in the next lesson, and then we'll get into cylinders, and then once we're done with all of that, then we'll come around to volume. But surface area, so one more time. I know I erased it. They wouldn't put the A, they would just put S. Surface area is 2 times the area of the base plus the perimeter of the base. Also notice that it's capitalized as well. It's because it's and then height. Okay, so B is the area of the base. Okay, P is perimeter of the base, and H is the height of the prism, because there will be a time when you'll need the height of the base to find its area, probably with a triangular base. I'll probably do one in the next lesson. But then you need the height of the prism, and they're different things. Okay? So that is the first, I'm going to say, of 3 lessons revolving around surface area of a prism, and then we'll get into surface area of a cylinder. So we'll do another one with prisms, and then we'll talk about cylinders. All right, look forward to seeing you in class.